Hey, it's Mike at Cleveland Aircraft Tool. I wanted to talk about some non-abrasive deburring tools. And this one is the one that comes in our kit. It's our part number DBS33, and it's also called a three-piece deburring tool. And then there's a couple bits that go into the end of this tool. And so we'll go through each of those individually. So first of all, the piece that comes in the kit is aluminum anodized handle, and it telescopes out. So you can adjust it at different lengths depending on what you're doing with it. And inside of the tool are two bits. And there's a bit for, they call them a bit for steel and a bit for aluminum and plastic, but the aluminum that we use in aircraft building is harder than a soft aluminum would be. So I think that the one is used for steel and aluminum, and then the other is used for plastic like plexiglass, or use it on fiberglass even to knock the burrs off of that without dulling the edge on the one that you use for aluminum and steel. So you just pour those out the end. You obviously can store them, store one of them in there while you're using it, and then the end just pulls back like an air chuck would to insert the piece, and then it swivels in the end here. So I've pre-recorded a couple videos to show you the different bits that come with that, so I could get close up on the camera. So the piece that you'll use for steel and aluminum is the part number DBB10. And see how it's angled severely to one side and not very much on the other side? So that's the right angle you need to bite into the harder aluminum material. Then the other one that comes with the kit, or with the tool, is a DBB20. And so that's the one that has about a 45-degree angle to each side there. So that that's what works best to bite into the softer materials like plastic. And then the other two that we have here, I'll show you while I'm showing these clips, this is what we call the hooked blade. So if you see, it looks kind of like a boomerang shape. That allows you to reach through some, I guess you would say, larger holes and deburr both sides at the same time. And then finally there is a V-bit, which you just drag down a sheet to deburr both sides. And rather than deburring it like it shows in Van's manual, where you kind of round the corners, this is going to bevel each corner. So you'd still have to do a little bit more handwork to really round it and get rid of those. So let me go back here and I will show you how this works. So I happen to put in the DBB20, which is the one that's equally tapered to both sides. So that one is for the soft material. So I'll put that aside and put in the DBB10. So these don't wear out as much as you accidentally drop them, and when they hit the floor, they break. So it doesn't hurt to have an extra DBB10 along with the DBS33 that comes in the kit. So the way to use this is you just start near the end of a piece on the edge and just drag it along toward you. And that just peels off the end or the edge. And then you come back to the opposite edge and do the same thing, or you can turn around the part, do it that way. So it peels that sharp edge off as you're using it. You can also get into these tight places a little bit, although you have to be careful not to let the tool dig in and create more of a stress mark than you would have without using it at all. So it's touchy that way, but it works quite well. Let me switch cameras and see if I can get a better view into that corner. So you can go down here, around that corner, and back out. What you don't want to do is be quick and go down like that and make a notch right there. So you want to just be really cautious that you're peeling all the way around that corner with that. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but as I was going along here, You can kind of hear it jump. I've kind of deburred this too much. You don't hear it as much anymore. But with the more modern kits that are punched out on a CNC machine, it leaves a little nub every once in a while. And to use a tool like this, these worked great in the 90s when everything was sheared out. But now with the computer punch stuff, it leaves those little nubs. And so you really have to go with a mill file and knock those nubs off quick before this tool really works well. Otherwise it hits that nub and jumps up and then comes back down and creates a slight notch after that. So just take a file and knock those nubs off and then run it down here. So this would be the alternative to using like a 3M wheel. The 3M wheel is still the best tool most of the time, but there's just times you can't get in places, or this is a good example here in the end where you could come down here around the corner and back up to deburr the inside of that you couldn't do that with a wheel. So it still works pretty well in a lot of situations. Along long wing skins, for instance, along the edge of a wing skin, I would take a file and knock those nubs off, and I would come back and just lightly drag along each side, and then I would come back with a Scotch-Brite hand pad to finish it up. So then let's talk about, well, we're talking about edges. Let's talk about this V-bit. And this V-bit comes in two different forms. This is a DBB70 that goes in this 3-piece tool. We also have one made by Avery that is the same bit that is just Loctited in the end of a piece of hex, aluminum hex. So it's just a fixed tool you just pick up and use rather than put it in the handle. But the V-bit, again, you just drag along. And again, back when everything was sheared, back in the 90s or so, everything was made on a shear. These work great. Now with those notches, they're going to bump up on each side of that notch, so you have to knock those down. I know I keep repeating myself, but it's important that you don't just let it jump and dig, or it's causing more problems than it's doing good. Going back to the DBB10, which is the bit that you'll use all the time for steel and aluminum, there's a lot of rotary tools that you use for deburring rivet holes, and I'll cover those in another video. I did the 3M wheels in the first video. This is the second video, and then there'll be a third one on deburring tools for small holes. So anything bigger, any holes bigger than 3/16 of an inch, you can use this tool on to deburr the holes themselves. And so to do that, you just put the tool into the hole and roll it around like that. So anything bigger than 3/16 of an inch, so really lightning holes, grommet holes, cable pass-throughs, anything like that, you can use this tool for. And the same thing here. This one's a little tighter. That one's a little tougher, which actually is good for my next example. But here, I don't know if I can get that so you can see that the burr is still on there. That's not been deburred yet. This part's been used for a lot of things, but that hole's not been deburred yet. So try and get the angle just right. And when you go around it, it just peels that off. You don't want it, just like in deburring any other hole, you don't want to take too much off of there and sharpen it to a complete point, but it works pretty well for that. Especially larger holes like grommet holes and lightning holes. So now I'm going to play this video one more time. The boomerang shape, drawing a blank, hooked deburring blade. This is a DBB15. This is sold separately. So here's a close-up. So you can see that it curves out and then comes back. So it's shaped just a little bit differently, but it still has about the same cutting angle as the DBB10 that you use most often. So I'm going to put that in here and show how that works. So lock it in the tool, and then this hole here that we couldn't quite get this tool in to make it work, you can actually come through, and now I'm pulling backwards. I don't have enough fingers, this direction on the tool, and you can go all the way around and pull that off from the inside. Now this is getting far too deburred because I keep deburring the same hole, but that way you can push in this way and get this side, and then you can pull and get the other side. So I'm pushing, now I'm pulling. So you're not doing it all at once with this tool. You're actually doing one side and then doing the other side, but not having to leave the hole to do it. So that's a wrap up of the different edge deburring tools and kind of how they're used and where they're used. And to just reiterate, the V-bit or the edge deburring tool, the hooked bit are separate pieces, and then the bits for the plastic and for steel and aluminum come with the DBB33 and are also available separately for replacements. Pull the collar back to extend it, and it's ready for storage. So thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions.